Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. Folks, we have a 2021 fifth generation Toyota Supra. Now, this car, when it came out, there was so many negativism around it. It's made by BMW, which it is. Let's not hide the facts. It's a BMW engine, not BMW transmission, but transmission sourced from BMW. BMW rear end, BMW electronics, basically the whole thing except the badge is a BMW. And people were disappointed by that. I'll admit, I was one of them. I'm a Supra purist. I've owned multiple old Supras before. It was just a disappointment that Toyota did not make their own. However, after driving one, that started to change. And this particular one will take things to the next level. For you, it already has for me. So initially, when you look at this, it is a silver 2021 Supra. Has some nice wheels, has a few different wing. We're going to look at all that in a bit. But this resembles the soul of the Supra. So what was cool about the old Supra, fourth generation Supra, the one that Fast and Furious one that everybody loves and they're shooting up in price right now. You could take one stock, you can put very simple modifications, bolt-ons, not necessarily cheap, but bolt-on modifications, and you can pump up 600-700 horsepower without breaking a sweat, without doing anything internal to the engine. And this particular Supra also does that, and does that very well, as you'll see in this video. So let's look under the hood of the Supra and we'll kind of start talking about what was done to this thing. Initially, and this is my kind of modified car, initially when you look at everything, the engine cover is missing. Yeah, it's not a big deal. But everything else otherwise looks almost stock. There's no blue neon colors. There's no stickers all over the place. There's actually nothing. From a distance, this looks completely stock. But it is when you start with a magnifying glass and when you see that this is anything but stock. Folks, this engine makes 700 horsepower. This is a 10-second quarter-mile car. Extremely impressive. Everything here is done so well. I'm usually against modifications and aftermarket stuff and all that, but when things are done right, they're done right. And this is done right. Let's start with the basics. Now, why would the engine cover be missing? Good question. Because if you know Supras and you've been around them, this intake manifold sits way too high compared to the stock one. And the reason for that is this actually has port injection in addition to the direct. So this is a popular modification for the B58 engine on BMW side. You raise the intake manifold up, put port injectors underneath it, and now you have 12 injectors. You have the direct injectors that are right here, and port injectors. Now, this is not done for optimum fuel economy. This is actually pure performance. And when you add that, that means your engine computer and the stock tune is long gone. This has a full-on tunable computer here. None of the old stuff works. It's just there for show, basically. So the cool thing here is, again, everything looks stock. The only thing you notice here, this wire harness doesn't reach, because this sits higher. But these are minor details. Now, when you start pushing this much power, obviously all the plastic piping for the intercooler are gonna go, and they're gone. This is all metal. Same thing with the air filter. Stock air filters are usually restrictive. When you start pushing more power, these need to go. But the cool thing about this one is it is not some giant K&N cone and all this weirdness that you usually see on cars and they do nothing. This is actually a functional one. There is a filter inside. This blocks the heat from the turbo. And if you come down and look here, there is actually a little snorkel. See it right there? This snorkel pulls air through the bumper, through the side, into that box, and into the turbo. This is a functional cold air intake. And those that put the little shield here and put the little cone, it doesn't really do much because your air source is still coming from the same place. But all that was done not just because, see, the simple theory of modifying an engine, it's actually simple until you actually attempt it, then things become super complicated. You basically need to put more air, more fuel. You can't do one but not the other. The only way to put more air is either supercharge or turbocharge or allow the engine to breathe easier. Adding more fuel is very simple. Bigger injectors, bigger fuel pump, there you go. You got as much fuel as you want. But adding more air is the problem. This engine originally is turbocharged. However, this no longer has the stock turbo. We actually have a hybrid, I believe the owner told me pure hybrid turbo. You can see it right here. Loud and proud. It's actually a very nice turbo. This is a very high-end turbo for these. Although they do have a problem with the occasional oil leak from it, but hey, you start modifying cars, you're gonna have to live with the occasional mishaps of things. That's just the norm. Now, in addition to all this, we also have an additional fuel pump, not modified, not an upgraded fuel pump, but we have an inline fuel pump to supply the port injectors, just to give the in-tank fuel pump kind of a push, because now it has to support two systems, not one. Folks, this is done well. I drove this car. It is just done well, and you can tell. Having said that, let's lift it up, let's look underneath it, because there's a lot more that is done to this that you might want to know about. Maybe you own one and want to modify it. Then we look underneath it. And one thing that always bothers me about modified cars, nothing looks normal. All the covers are gone, everything is zip tied here and there. But you know what? I've worked on a lot of Supras since they came out. This looks completely stock. Nothing looks out of the ordinary. Big structural shield is here. All the covers are here. Everything, for lack of a better word, everything looks completely stock, including the exhaust. And this is the big surprise. Because usually, Supra owners, they buy the car, first thing they do, drop the exhaust, put something extremely loud and annoying. But this one has a stock exhaust. Now it is loud, and that's mainly because we have no catalytic converters here. It's, sorry EPA, but not my car. Anyways, we kind of start looking around, and if we come around, Eros, bring the camera around, let's look at the turbo. That is not a stock turbo. It's actually very beautiful. That is a very nice turbo here, folks. That is a very nice turbo there. This is actually well done, folks. I mean, really, if you're not super familiar with these, you're gonna look at it, it's could be stock. It's actually an enormous turbo. Anything but stock. You see the nose of it a little bit here. But other than that, of course, the catalytic converter is gone, which is usually right here. It's gone. All we have is stock exhaust. Let's walk through it. It says BMW right here, all the way to the back. Cutoff valves right here. And this is kind of a testimony. Do you really need that super loud exhaust to make 700 horsepower out of this thing? You actually don't. And this is very cool. Now let's talk about some of the other modifications to this car. Now, we talked about the fuel pump. You can see some aftermarket wires and zip ties here, but things are done very, very well. See them right there? Things are done very well here. Nothing is, all the wires are walking with other wires. This is, you don't have a little wire hanging right here. This is done well. But the differential is actually completely stock. Nothing was done to the differential. Something about the Supra differential, from far away, it almost looks like it has a spark plug to it. Not the case, but it's just a joke. Going back here, all braces are here, supports are here, shields are here, everything is completely normal. And then you look at the transmission. From a first glance, This looks like just a normal ZF transmission, nothing really about it. They were in the year 2020, this oil pan was notorious to leak right here in this corner. This one looks completely normal, but it is anything but normal. This transmission actually started slipping when this car got modified. It just completely went. It cannot handle that much power. So this is a stage 1 transmission. There's a company in Texas, I've talked with the owner briefly. Company in Texas, they have them pre-built and ready to go. You go, they take it out, put another transmission that they built, and here we go. Abrupt shifting, and it's meant to handle that kind of power, but hey, the stock transmission actually, in their opinion, of that company's opinion, can only handle right around 500, 550. Anything over that, it starts slipping and its life really degrades quickly. So I suppose this is where the 4th generation Supra wins a little bit, although the Getrag transmission, if we're talking about manual transmission, can take it if you put a better clutch. So I guess we're kind of even there as well. Otherwise, and this is, again, I might have repeated this too much, but I love the fact that this is completely stock looking. This is how modified cars should be. You don't have to rip everything out and take all your creature comforts just to have a modified car. Now, something else they did to this, obviously you have all this power, you want to keep it on the road. We have enormous 305 tires. These are street tires, which are cupped and worn, but that's how it is with these cars, because the front tires are fine, the rear is completely gone. You just can't, I mean, just letting off the throttle almost wants to spin the wheels. That's just how it is. You look at the front tires, they're good. Cupped, but good. They don't really need replacement. But something that is interesting about this car and the owner. So the owner, we talked a little bit about the car before we made this video, and I asked him, I'm like, how many sets of brakes did you have? We have 25,000 miles on this car. 10,000 of those 25 are with the modifications. When I asked him about the brakes, he's like, yeah, I probably need brakes at this point. I mean, it's been 25,000 miles. He doesn't exactly drive it, you know, like a grandma. It's a 700 horsepower Supra. That's how you drive it. But believe it or not, look at the brakes here. They are literally 8 millimeters in the front. These are stock brakes, folks. These are the original brakes. 8 millimeters in the back. I mean, this is pretty good. I remember replacing a set of brakes on a Supra that had 23,000 miles. Perhaps the driver has to do here with that, not just the car. But this is another thing. Brakes are capable on this thing. 4-piston caliper, very, very capable brake. The car here is in the shop, do simple oil change. And we're not gonna make a dedicated video because the Supra is as scary and complicated it looks under the hood. It's actually one of the easiest cars to do an oil change on. Take this little cover, drain plug is right here, and there is an internal joke about this foam that they put around the oil pan. This is so when the car leaks, that foam would capture the oil leaks and you wouldn't see them until the car is out of warranty, but that's just a BMW joke. We are Toyota land over here. Let's hope that's not the case. Let's look at the back of this thing because this is kind of a retro look to the Supra, and I usually don't like wings. I'm not really into that. I actually like cars to look stock, perhaps not be stock and be done right like this one. But I have to admit, this one kind of fits it. And this is the other thing. Yes, it's a BMW and all that mess, but it does have the soul of the Supra, because even the spoiler that's been so used on the old one actually looks pretty good on this. It's almost like they looked at the old one, they looked at the modifications they used to do, and they decided, how can we design it where this actually works if somebody were to put it? And it works. And the owner of this car actually gave us permission to show his license plate because we just had to. Would you look at that license plate? Very fitting on this car. Just hope he doesn't get a lot of tickets, because this would be the kind of car that is a cop magnet. Especially a car that as soon as you touch the throttle, you're already breaking every single speed limit. This is probably the downside of owning a car like this. Very nice car. Let's look at one more thing inside of this car. If you look at the inside, it's actually, again, completely stock. You don't have 17 million gauges and everything. You do have a radar detector. You probably need one in a car like this. But the only thing that is done, the steering wheel is actually custom. I actually really like this. This is not gimmicky. It's very befitting of the car. Larger paddles. They're also nice. Real carbon fiber, not fake. Real carbon fiber everywhere. Again, if you're going to do something, do it right. Don't just stick stickers and all that stuff. The one thing on this car, the roof is wrapped in black, just to give it kind of a different look. Oh, and I forgot to say on the spoiler, that is actually carbon fiber in the middle as well. Very, very nice car. So folks, there it is. The owner of this car, 10,000 miles on these modifications, including the transmission, including everything. Believe it or not, he almost daily drives it in the summer. And this is how it is. He's in for an oil change, he drives it, he puts a lot of miles on it actually for a Supra. And it's been fine, no problems. Gas mileage, and this is the other crazy thing. Gas mileage actually haven't changed much. Usually in these Supras, you drive them around town, you're gonna get 20, 19, unless you're really always on it, then obviously that's not the case. But you drive it on the highway, you can actually get in the 30s, which is pretty impressive for a car that makes this much power. Because it's very lightweight, engine is very modern, it has a lot of technology, but very, very cool. Let's go take a look one more time under the hood, and we'll talk about a few things, other things that he's done. So one of the biggest things that people really disliked about the Supras is the fake vents. Fake vents on the hood, fake vents here, fake vents on the door. And many people have bought the duct kit and all that. The owner of this car actually just opened the bumper behind this duct. Has direct passage to the brakes, same thing in the back. Simple modification. Sometimes, even though he spent a lot to make this what it is, but sometimes little stuff just are not worth spending money on, like this one, because you can just open the vent and life is good. I truly like this car. I truly like, what I like more about this car is the Supra spirit, because this is it. If anybody buys the Supra, the old one, and I'll say the truth, I am a Supra owner. Mark III, however, I never owned a Mark IV. People say they're reliable. You can get 500-600 horsepower reliably without anything. You just put a few bolt-ons and life is good. Folks, that is not the case. The truth have to be said. If you've ever owned a third-generation Toyota Supra with a 7M GTE, you probably still have 3-4 head gaskets hanging in your garage. That's just how it is with those. If it's not the head gasket, it was the crank position sensor, that was a modified distributor, and it was the wire brakes and all kinds of mess, and they were super expensive to replace when they finally go. And then the 4th generation Supra. The turbos, the twin turbos, the stock, they love to go out. And then the oil leaks, and then this and that, and yes, that does get worse when they're older, but they were not as reliable as a Camry. Let's just put it that way. So is this one. I'm not going to go and say that BMW is reliable, because they're not. Absolutely not. But this is probably the best offering from BMW. This engine is a very good engine. And putting it in the Supra, instead of having, oh, I don't know, an engine from a minivan here, I'd rather see this, because this already has a modifying community. You have a lot of stuff that are already available for this, and this just brings joy to my heart that the owner of this car took it kind of on a mission to keep things looking stock. I don't have blue hoses and yellow, pink, and all the sponsor stickers that are not really sponsors. Everything looks stock. Average Joe opens the hood, thinks, oh, where's the engine cover? That's the only thing missing. This is how it should be, because modifying a car is not about showing other people that you modified it. It's about you enjoying the car in a safe manner, hopefully. And just, it's a beautiful thing to see this car making this much power on stock internals. And I hope it continues to last. At some point, it's not going to last 200,000 miles like this, but I hope it lasts enough time where the owner enjoys the car, and that's the whole point of the Supra. Nobody will buy a Supra because it's as reliable as a Camry. That's just not the case. Never was, never will be. Folks, I hope this video was helpful, informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you. And you have yourself a wonderful day.